Welcome to our midweek break, the first of the new year. I always start choosing a new devotional and the first of the year to read each day. And this year I've landed on one that I found in my library as I was looking for another book called A Year with God, Living Out the Spiritual Disciplines by Richard Foster. You know, the entry from January 4th was particularly meaningful for me. So I thought I would share it with you for this week's midweek break. It's based on a great story from the book of Exodus. You know, the Hebrew people had settled in Egypt under Joseph and his father Jacob, with all the brothers and their families. And the family grew and flourished to the point where Egyptian leaders were threatened by their numbers. And they forced the people into slavery. And of course, we know they were in slavery in Egypt for over 400 years. But Scripture says God heard their cries and sent Moses to lead them to freedom. So Moses convinces the Pharaoh to let them go. But as they're leaving Egypt and slavery behind, Pharaoh changed his mind and went after them. And so that's where we pick up the story. Scripture reads, "As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw them, Egyptians coming at them. They were totally afraid. They cried out in terror to God. And they told Moses, 'Weren't the cemeteries large enough in Egypt? You had to take us out here in the wilderness to die? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Back in Egypt, didn't we tell you this would happen? Didn't we tell you, leave us alone here in Egypt? We're better off as slaves in Egypt than as corpses in the wilderness.'" Well, Moses spoke to the people, and he said, "Don't be afraid." We hear those words a lot in Scripture, don't we? Don't be afraid, stand firm, and watch God do his work of salvation for you today. Take a good look at the Egyptians today, for you're never going to see them again. God will fight the battle for you. And you have only to keep still. The Message version says, "You have only to keep your mouths shut." Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and God, with a terrific east wind all night long, made the sea go back. He made the sea dry ground. The sea waters split. Now, the people had a choice, right? They could trust their own ideas, or they could trust God and walk across the dry land that God had created for them. And we may not have an army following us, but we also have a choice every day. Our choice is either to trust in our plans with all our heart or trust our God. Not only do the best laid plans fall to pieces, but often enough, God prompts us to act without any plans in place at all, and with no guarantee that everything will come together as it should. No one knew how God was going to rescue the Hebrews. They could only trust that he was going to do something. Had they insisted that scouts be sent out first to report back that the route was already clear, they would have remained as slaves, because the water only parted once they had acted in faith and followed God. They could not count on any plans because God didn't give them the plan. God only gave them God's self, because God was the plan. As you look for God today, I invite you to reflect on when and where in your life you've been able to trust in God when things fell apart. And how might you come closer to allowing yourself to step back and let God fight for you? You know, for me, that often happens only when I've come to the end of my own efforts. Maybe this will be the year for all of us, that we look to God first. Be well, everyone. Have a great week.